The wind howled across the great plains of Terith Prime, carrying the scent of dust, lightning, and metal. Hundreds of alien eyes watched from the stone terraces built around the dueling circle. The Elysian clan had gathered, proud warriors with pale skin marked by glowing blue veins and silver eyes that shone even in shadow. At the center of the circle stood Violara, daughter of the clan's war leader. Her armor shimmered with etched runes that moved like living light. In her hand she held the sacred rune blade, a weapon that chose its wielder through blood and spirit. No outsider had ever been allowed to face it. Across from her stood a man in plain battle-worn armor, Commander Elias Ward of the Terran Alliance. His dark hair was dusty from travel, and his face was calm, almost too calm for someone standing before death. His eyes carried no fear, only quiet understanding. The elders had demanded this duel to prove a point, that no human could match an Elysian warrior in honor or strength. Elias hadn't wanted to fight, but when the peace talks collapsed and Violara's clan accused his people of trespass, he accepted the challenge. He knew that sometimes one duel could stop a war. As the storm clouds above flashed with lightning, a deep horn sounded across the arena. The crowd fell silent. Violara circled him slowly, her boots pressing into the white sand. "You don't belong here, human," she said coldly. "Our laws are older than your stars." Elias nodded once. "Maybe," he replied softly. "But peace doesn't care about who came first. It cares about who listens." Her jaw tightened. "Then listen to this." She struck first, a blur of motion. The blade sang through the air, blue runes flaring bright. Elias barely had time to raise his hand in defense. The edge sliced across his palm, drawing a line of red. But in that instant, something impossible happened. The runes on Violara's blade changed color. The blue light turned to gold, burning brighter than the storm above. The blade began to hum, a deep sound that filled the air like the heartbeat of the planet. Violara froze. The crowd gasped. Elias looked down at his hand, blood dripping onto the sand. He didn't understand what he was seeing. The runes pulsed, once, twice, and then spread, glowing all the way up the blade and into Violara's arm. The elders rose from their seats, eyes wide. One of them whispered, "It cannot be." "The runes recognize him." Violara stumbled backward, staring at her sword in disbelief. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "This cannot happen." The rune blade was sacred. Its runes were ancient technology left behind by the first kin, the ancestors of the Elysian people. The stories said that the runes would only glow gold for one of pure blood, one who carried the mark of the first kin. And yet the light now answered to a human. Elias lowered his hand slowly. "What's happening?" he asked. Violara didn't answer. The entire arena was silent except for the steady hum of the golden light. Then one by one, members of the clan began to kneel. Their weapons touched the sand, their heads bowed low. Even the elders lowered themselves, trembling. The hum grew louder, echoing in the hearts of all who stood there. Violara dropped her sword as if it burned her. The blade landed tip-first in the ground, glowing like a beacon. "Who are you?" she whispered. Elias took a slow breath, confused and cautious. Just a man who wanted peace. The moment stretched endlessly. The wind stilled. Even the thunder seemed to wait. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the light dimmed. The runes faded from gold to pale white and then went dark. The silence that followed was heavy. An elder approached Elias carefully, his silver eyes filled with fear and awe. "The runes have not sung in 1,000 years," he said in a trembling voice. "They recognize your blood." Elias shook his head. "That's impossible. I'm human. My people came here less than a century ago." But the elder only bowed lower. "Then perhaps your people came from the stars of the first kin." The crowd murmured in wonder and disbelief. Violara still stood frozen, her hand shaking. She looked at Elias, at his calm eyes, his steady breath, and something inside her changed. She had been taught to hate humans, to see them as intruders, but now her sacred blade had bowed to him. Guards approached, unsure what to do. Elias did not raise a weapon. He simply stood there, his blood still dripping onto the glowing runes carved into the ground. The sand beneath his feet shimmered faintly, responding to his presence. Violara took a hesitant step forward. "Commander Ward," she said quietly, "when your blood touched the runes, they recognized something ancient. You may not know what it means, but our world does." Elias looked around. Hundreds of eyes were still on him, not in anger now, but in reverence. If it helped stop this war, he said. Then I'll face whatever truth it brings. The elder nodded gravely. Then the truth will be found. But know this, and there are those who will not welcome it. You have touched something sacred, something that was never meant to return. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the stunned faces of the clan. The horn of the duel sounded again, but this time not in challenge, in respect. Vailara knelt, pressing her palm to the ground. By our laws, she said softly, the duel is over. You are no longer our enemy. Elias looked down at her, surprised by the emotion in her voice.
He extended his uninjured hand to help her stand.
She hesitated, then took it. For a heartbeat, the runes across her armor flickered gold again. Far beyond the plains, deep beneath the surface of Tereth Prime, ancient machines stirred for the first time in millennia. Their sensors registered a signal, a pulse of long-dormant energy, matching the DNA of one man, Commander Elias Ward. He had come for peace. But the planet itself had just declared him the heir of something far older. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispering legends that were never meant to live again. Vailara stood beside him, her eyes uncertain but full of respect. The storm began to fade, leaving the air heavy with electricity and fate. After the duel ended, the sky over Tereth Prime stayed strangely quiet. The wind had softened, the storm clouds drifted away, and the white sands of the arena still glowed faintly with traces of the golden runes. Commander Elias Ward stood at the edge of the circle, his palm wrapped in a strip of clean fabric. The cut had almost stopped bleeding, but the mark it left burned faintly, as if some hidden spark still lived beneath his skin. Around him, the Elysian clan moved with both fear and awe. No one dared to meet his eyes. The elders whispered among themselves, and the guards who once pointed their weapons now kept a respectful distance. Vailara walked beside him, her steps slower than before. Her once proud face looked thoughtful and confused. She had grown up believing humans were outsiders, short-lived, reckless, without honor. But her sacred blade had bowed to one of them. They led Elias through the great stone gates of the Elysian stronghold, a fortress built into a mountain of silver rock. Glowing lines of energy ran through the walls, and ancient carvings told stories of the first kin, the star travelers who created the Elysian people long ago. Elias felt eyes watching him from every hallway. Servants stopped what they were doing when he passed. Warriors lowered their weapons and whispered prayers under their breath. Finally, he was brought before the council hall, a vast chamber with a ceiling shaped like a star map. The oldest elder, High Seer Kareth, waited there, his long robes covered in faded runes. His voice was low but steady. The blade of Vailara has chosen you. Tell us, human, what are you? Elias stood straight. A soldier, he said simply. Born on Earth. I came here to stop a war, not start one. The hall filled with murmurs. Some elders nodded respectfully. Others glared with suspicion. Kareth looked at the glowing mark on Elias's hand. That wound is not ordinary. It bears the pattern of the star blood. Only the descendants of the first kin can awaken our sacred runes. Elias frowned. I don't understand. Humans evolved on Earth. We aren't part of your legends. The elder's eyes glimmered. Perhaps you are more connected than you know. The first kin seeded life on many worlds. The humans may be their final branch, the forgotten children. The room fell silent. Vailara's heart pounded. If this was true, then everything her people believed about humans was wrong. Another elder, old and sharp-voiced, slammed his staff against the ground. This cannot be accepted. The sacred bloodline belongs to Elysians alone. This human's power is a danger. Kareth raised a hand. Danger or destiny, that remains to be seen. But the runes have spoken. We cannot ignore the will of the ancestors. He turned to Elias. The energy that awakened your blood has also stirred something deep beneath our lands. Temples that have slept for thousands of years now glow again. We believe they are calling to you. Elias looked at his hand, still faintly glowing. If they're calling, then maybe I can find answers there. But I won't be used as a weapon. Vailara looked at him carefully. You mean you'll go to the ancient temples? He nodded. Yes, if it helps your people and mine, I'll go. The council ended soon after, but the tension did not fade. Outside, the fortress buzzed with rumors. Some clans swore loyalty to the Starblood human. Others saw him as a threat to their traditions. That night, the Elysian fortress was silent except for the sound of rain. Elias sat alone in the guest chamber, looking out through a window at the glowing peaks. The wound on his hand pulsed faintly in rhythm with distant lightning. He couldn't sleep. He thought of home, of the small blue planet far away, of oceans and forests and sunlight. He never imagined his mission would lead to this, to being called a descendant of gods. Suddenly, the door opened softly. Violara stepped inside, her armor gone, dressed in simple robes of silver cloth. She looked uncertain, but her voice was calm. "You should not stay alone. The clans are restless. Some believe you are a blessing. Others call you a curse." Elias smiled faintly. "It's not the first time people couldn't decide which I was." She sat down across from him. "When I cut your hand, I thought it would end your life. But instead, it changed mine." He nodded. "You didn't know." "I should have," she whispered. "The runes never lie. They saw something in you we could not." She reached into her sleeve and placed the rune blade on the table between them. It was quiet now, its surface dull, but faint golden symbols still flickered when her fingers brushed them. "When the runes flared, it was not just the blade that changed," she said. Across the plains, the old temples began to hum. Lights came from the ground. "The energy flows of our world have shifted." The first kin's voice is returning. Elias leaned closer. "And you think it's because of me?" "I don't think," she replied softly. "I know." Outside, a low rumble echoed from the mountains. The lights along the fortress walls flickered. Something ancient was awakening beneath the surface. Suddenly, a messenger ran into the room, breathless. "Lady Violara, High Seer calls for you. One of the old temples has opened itself. The lights match the runes from the human's blood." Violara looked at Elias. Their eyes met. Calm human gaze and silver alien eyes reflecting the same realization. "It's starting," Elias said quietly. Within an hour, they rode through the storm toward the ancient site. The temple stood in a deep valley carved with spiraling pillars of stone. Runes glowed faintly across the ground, spreading outward like veins of gold. As they approached, the energy pulsed stronger. The ground vibrated beneath their feet. Elias stepped forward slowly. The mark on his hand shone brighter with each step. The massive stone doors of the temple trembled, then opened with a deep echoing sound. Inside, a circular chamber waited, covered in symbols of both human and Ilisan design. Violara gasped. One carving showed a figure that looked unmistakably human standing among the first kin. Elias walked to the center where a pedestal glowed. A crystal hovered above it, pulsing gently. When he placed his palm upon it, a beam of light shot upward, and ancient machines hidden deep underground came alive. A soft voice, ancient and calm, filled the chamber. Starblood detected. Lineage confirmed. "The Keeper has returned." Violara fell to one knee, her eyes wide. "The Keeper? From our oldest legends." Elias looked at the glowing crystal, unsure what to feel. The light painted his face in gold. "If I'm truly connected to your ancestors," he said quietly, "then maybe I can help rebuild what they lost." The temple began to hum like a living heart, sending waves of energy across the planet. From distant mountains to hidden oceans, other temples began to awaken, responding to his blood. Outside, the sky turned golden for a moment, and every Ilisan on the plains looked up in awe. Violara turned toward him and said softly, "You may not believe in destiny, human, but destiny believes in you." Elias stood there, the glow of ancient power swirling around him, realizing that peace between their worlds would depend not on war, but on what he would do next. The golden light from the ancient temple flowed across the valley like rivers of fire. The ground trembled softly as more runes awakened beneath the surface of Tereth Prime. High above, lightning danced without thunder, painting the clouds in silver and gold. Commander Elias Ward stood in the center of the glowing chamber. His palm still rested on the floating crystal, which now pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The voice that had spoken moments ago, calm, ancient, and full of power, had called him the Keeper. Violara stood beside him, her silver eyes filled with wonder and fear. The golden light reflected off her face as she whispered, "The Keeper is not just a guardian. In our legends, the Keeper is the one who restores balance when worlds fall apart." Elias slowly pulled his hand away from the crystal. The mark on his palm still glowed faintly. "Balance," he repeated softly. "That's what I came here for." But outside the temple, balance was breaking. A messenger ran down the valley, shouting urgently, "Lady Violara, Commander! The clans are coming. The war leaders say the human must not live. They believe he will destroy the old ways. Vailara looked toward the horizon. Hundreds of lights flickered, the torches of warriors approaching through the storm. The ground shook as war vehicles rolled across the plains. Elias's face remained calm, but his heart felt heavy. I didn't come here to bring war to your world. Vailara's hand tightened around her rune blade. And yet, peace always tests the hearts of those who fear change. The temple's walls vibrated as the ancient systems came fully alive. Runes formed patterns along the ceiling, but a map of the stars. One symbol glowed brighter than all others. Earth Star, the same blue-white point where humanity began. Vailara looked at it in awe. Your homeworld is marked among the stars of the first kin. It's true, your people are their descendants. Elias stepped closer to the projection. Then maybe we were never strangers. Maybe we were family who forgot each other. Outside, thunder roared. The army of rival clans arrived at the edge of the valley. Their banners fluttered in the wind, marked with the symbols of war. From the lead vehicle, a tall alien warrior shouted, "Surrender the human. The blood of the Starblood will not belong to an outsider." Vailara turned to Elias. They will not listen to words now. Elias looked down at his hand, the faint golden mark pulsing like a living thing. Then maybe it's time they see the truth for themselves. He stepped outside the temple. The wind tore at his coat and the storm above swirled like a living ocean. Hundreds of eyes turned toward him, some filled with hatred, others with confusion. The war leader raised his weapon. "Step back, human." Elias raised his bleeding palm toward the sky. "If my blood can awaken your world, then it was never meant to divide you." He pressed his palm to the ground. Instantly, golden light burst outward in every direction. The runes across the valley blazed to life, spreading like wildfire through the earth. The attacking warriors fell silent as the glow reached their feet, climbing up their armor like living vines. The storm clouds split apart, revealing a night sky filled with countless stars. The ancient machines beneath Tereth Prime released a low, harmonic sound, a song that had not been heard in thousands of years. Vailara stood beside him, eyes wide. "The song of the first kin," she whispered. "It's real." The light surrounded Elias completely now, lifting him slightly above the ground. His voice echoed across the valley, not loud but powerful and clear. "The first kin did not create you to rule or to fight. They gave you their gift to protect life. And if humanity carries the same blood, then we were meant to walk beside you, not against you." The warriors stared, frozen. Their weapons lowered. Some fell to their knees as the light touched their armor, burning away the hatred in their hearts. High Seer Kareth arrived on a floating platform, tears streaming down his face. "The prophecy, it has come to pass. The Keeper has awakened the Starborn song." The golden light faded slowly, settling into the earth. Elias dropped back to the ground, weak but still standing. The mark on his palm dimmed, leaving only a faint scar. For a long time, no one spoke. The valley was quiet except for the sound of wind moving gently through the stone pillars. Finally, Vailara stepped forward, her voice steady but emotional. "The clans kneel to truth, not fear. Commander Ward, the blood in your veins has shown us who we truly are." One by one, the warriors knelt, not to worship, but in respect. The war banners were lowered, their lights dimming. Elias looked around, still catching his breath. "No more fighting," he said quietly. "No more borders between your kind and mine. The past was never meant to keep us apart." Kareth bowed his head. "You have done what even our ancestors could not, united those who have forgotten the meaning of peace." As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight fell upon the temple. The ruins no longer looked like a battlefield. They looked like a place of beginning. Vailara turned to Elias. "You could stay here," she said softly. "Our world could learn from you." He smiled faintly. "Maybe one day. But for now, I need to return to my people. There's something I need to tell them, that we are not alone and we never were." She looked down, then offered him the rune blade. Its surface shimmered faintly gold once more. "Then take this," she said. "A symbol of what happened here. The blade that once challenged you now belongs to peace." Elias accepted it carefully. "I'll carry it as a promise." When he walked back toward his ship, the Elysian people stood in silence watching him go. The golden lights across the valley slowly dimmed, their purpose fulfilled. Before stepping inside, Elias looked one last time at the horizon, the mountains glowing in soft morning light. Vylara stood there beside her people, wind in her silver hair, the new sun rising behind her. He raised his hand in farewell. She mirrored the gesture, as his ship lifted into the sky. The golden rune on his palm pulsed one last time, a heartbeat connecting two worlds. Far above Tereth Prime, as the stars spread out before him, Elias whispered to himself, "We came to make peace, but maybe we came home instead." And deep within the ancient network of temples, a quiet signal traveled through space, across light years, across ages, awakening forgotten systems and long silent voices that waited for the return of the Starblood.